And welcome back to Hannity. Now, the economy is sure to be on the forefront of every voter's mind as they head to the polls in 2012. Now, earlier, I sat down with economist Thomas Sowell to talk about his new book and the state of the economy. And joining us once again is the great Thomas Sowell, and his new book is called The Reader. Dr. Sowell, how are you? Welcome back, sir.
Fine, thank you.
You know, it's pretty funny. On the one hand, you're very critical. You went to an Ivy League school. You went to Harvard. On the other hand, you tell a story about a professor who forced you to dig deeper for answers and be more critical in your analysis. So was Harvard a good experience or a bad experience?
That one class was a good experience.
That one?
No, there were a few others, too. The professor was Arthur Smithies, and there was some issue of the day. I've even forgotten what it was. And he asked me, what is your stand on that issue? So this is something I was very much in favor of. And I began with enthusiasm and told him, I expect this to happen, that would happen. He said, and then what will happen? And then I realized, he caught me short, that really there'd be further repercussions from what I'd suggested. And as I went through them, I realized there were some negative things that were going to happen. And then he said, yes, and then what will happen? And as I pursued it further and further, I realized in the end that this would end up creating far more problems than it was going to solve. Yeah, well, it was a great experience in retrospect because it forced me to think beyond stage one. And I think that in politics, politicians themselves almost never think beyond that. And unfortunately, too many in the media and even in academia don't think beyond what the immediate results are going to be.
Boy, that's very well said. My political science professor at NYU, first words out of his mouth, I am a communist, and communism is better than capitalism. And I ended up fighting him the entire semester, and I got the lowest grade I ever had in college. Thanks very much.
All too typical.
Yeah. You know, you use a lot of classic fables and analogies in the book, and you talk about the grasshopper and the ant. I want you to explain this to people, because we got 50% of American taxpayers now. They don't pay any income tax. Top 1% pays 40%. And then they get hit over the head and they're told that they're not paying their fair share. Explain why that would be relevant to today's economic conditions.
Oh, heavens. Well, the notion of fair share, I love it. No one ever says what it is. I mean, is it 20%, 40%, 60%? They don't specify. It reminds me of what the question that was addressed to legendary union leader Samuel Gompers. What is it that organized labor wants? He said it in one word, more. And that's what fair means. It means more. That's all that it means.
But the grasshopper and the ant is the perfect analogy, I think. Here's my fear about 50% of the electorate not paying any taxes. It's pretty simple. That's a voting majority. So,
yes.
So at some point, as everybody say, well, why am I working? Why am I paying all this money in taxes? Why am I producing? And we've now empowered a government to take all that money and create their own social order. Do we give up liberty in the process?
Oh, absolutely. No question about it. Because as the government dispenses money, it can make the dispensing of that money contingent on your going along with their ideas. And so even though you may have a right to do this or that, if they're hanging this over your head, exercising that right can be too expensive.
Explain what happens. There was a great article in the front cover this week on USA Today, Top Fold, and it was a story about what's happening in Europe. And we see what's happening in Greece. We see what's happening in Spain, in Portugal, Ireland, for example. And the Germans are mad at Greece because Greece won't instill or put in place the austerity measures that are necessary to get the loans, to get the bailout so that they can continue. And then the people in Germany said, why are we bailing you out when you have more benefits than us? And there seems to be a great entitlement there. What happens if Europe and the euro collapse? And do you think it could happen? And what would happen?
Oh, I think they'll keep it from collapsing by some kind of expedient or other. But the fundamental problem is the one that you mentioned, namely that people in Germany are saving and people in Greece are spending. And we've gotten the idea, not only within countries, but between countries, that some people ought to just go ahead and spend, and the others who didn't spend have to come to their rescue instead of letting them pay the consequences of what they've done.
Yeah. All right. Assess the Obama presidency on economics, on foreign policy, Do you think with the numbers he has now, he can get reelected?
I'm afraid he can. People say, you know, how can he get reelected with the unemployment rate stuck at 9%? And the answer I give is Franklin D. Roosevelt was elected twice in a row where the unemployment rate never came down as low as 9%. And he did it by the tactics that Obama is now using. Namely, he blamed it all on his predecessor. He blamed it all on business. And he claimed to have some sort of magic answers. And it worked for him. Some of the polls are saying that any Republican can beat Obama, but he won't be running against any Republican. He'll be running against some specific individual who will be the target of as many smears as they can possibly come up with. I mean, if there's a videotape of that candidate jaywalking 20 years ago, it's going to be on television.
Listen, I've made a rule.
I'm not at all. I don't regard it as a done deal that they're going to get him out of there. I hope that they get him out of there, but I hope they're not being, the Republicans aren't being complacent.
I think that's a good admonition. Is there any one candidate you like and you support?
Well, we haven't yet found Superman, and I suspect that we're not going to. And so the question is, who is the best out of what there is out there? And that remains to be seen.
All right, Thomas Sowell, always appreciate you being with us. Congratulations on the new book, and we hope you'll come back soon.
Thank you very much.